On a freezing October morning in the year 1650, heavy autumn fog hangs low over Wieliczka. Cold winds blow across yellowing pine forests just 9 miles southeast of Krakow. Above ground, gray smoke rises from small wooden cottages and salt boiling houses. The crisp morning air smells of damp soil, burning wood, and distant salt mist rising from boiling pans near the Vistula River. Yet far beneath the feet of local Polish peasants and royal officials lies a completely different world. 300 feet below the surface, bright sunlight never shines. The subterranean air carries a heavy damp chill that never changes throughout the year. It tastes of mutton fat, horse manure, and ancient salt compressed over millions of years. In this autumn of 1650, under the reign of King John II Casimir Vasa, the royal salt mine of Wieliczka reaches the absolute height of its power, wealth, and administrative organization. Salt is the white gold of Poland. It funds royal armies, builds grand palaces, and pays for university halls in Krakow. Yet this rich subterranean kingdom rests on the edge of historical disaster. In just 5 short years, the destructive Swedish invasion will sweep across Poland, bringing war, plunder, and ruin to the surface world. Welcome back to the Rewind History Channel, your window into forgotten chapters of the past. Today, we journey deep into the lost subterranean world of 17th century Poland. If you enjoy exploring hidden history and lost worlds, please subscribe to the channel and leave a like. Your generous support allows more forgotten moments of history to return to the light through our visual reconstructions. Now, step down into the flickering shadows of the deep galleries. Listen to giant wooden treadwheels creaking in total darkness. Watch blind horses pull massive salt boulders through dark underground halls. See brave workers crawl through narrow timber shafts, carrying lit tallow torches into dangerous pockets of explosive methane gas. Descending into the depths of Wieliczka starts at the mouth of a massive wooden shaft. A thick hemp rope, as wide as a man's thigh, hangs down into the pitch-black void. To enter the mine, workers strap themselves into strong leather harness loops attached directly to the main haulage cable. Operated by giant horse treadwheels at the surface, the cable lowers men down into the darkness as a cold vertical draft rushes upward against their faces. High above, daylight shrinks into a tiny white dot before vanishing completely. The deep underground shafts are lined with heavy wooden casings made of squared pine and fir trunks. Workers call these sturdy timber casings castory. They fit the logs tightly together and seal every joint with forest moss and thick tar. On the surface, wooden buildings rot quickly in wet weather. Inside the salt mine, something remarkable occurs. Mineral-rich brine dripping from the ceiling saturates the wood fibers and crystallizes within the grain. Over time, salt petrifies the logs into iron-hard pillars that resist rot for centuries. Beyond the haulage harness lies the floor of the upper mine level. An endless maze of vaulted chambers and narrow halls stretches out in every direction. The stone here is not bright white table salt. Miners call it green salt because it has a dark, basalt-like color mixed with gray clay and shale impurities. Open flame torches glow against the walls, revealing sparkling crystal veins and smooth stone faces polished by passing shoulders. White crusts of saline dust grow on the rock like winter frost. High vaulted ceilings arch overhead into shadow, held up by massive pillars of unmined salt. Master stonecutters left these giant pillars standing to prevent the weight of the earth above from crushing galleries below. Still pools of crystal clear water collect in shallow floor basins, fully saturated with pure salt. Deep in the heart of the mine stand the operational centers and daily living areas of this underground city. Workers carved stables directly out of solid rock salt, fitting them with heavy wooden mangers and iron water troughs. Inside the stables, the air feels warm and smells strongly of horse manure, wet hay, and leather harness oil. This contrasts sharply with the cold mineral air of surrounding halls. A short walk from the stables brings you to the underground chapel of St. Anthony. Devout miners sculpted its altar, Gothic arches, candle holders, and holy statues entirely from gray rock salt. Small tallow candles flicker before a salt-carved crucifix, casting a warm red glow across the polished floor. The acoustic landscape is a haunting symphony of sound. Iron pickaxes thud against hard stone, heavy pine beams groan under earth pressure, and iron chains clatter as draft horses pull heavy loads through cavernous vaults. Hours before dawn lights the wooden church steeples of Wieliczka. The workday begins at 4 o'clock in the morning. A heavy iron bell rings at the surface headhouse, calling hundreds of laborers from their wooden beds. Miners line up in the shivering cold while supervisors hold brass lanterns to check their faces. The social order of the mine is strict and governed by royal laws dating back to medieval times. At the top of the subterranean social ladder are skilled diggers, known as Kopacze. These experienced craftsmen hold traditional rights to cut salt, possessing expert knowledge of mineral veins, rock stability, and cutting tools. Below the diggers stand haulers, known as treadwheels. These strong men drag multi-ton salt blocks through dark corridors. Lower still are unbonded serfs from nearby royal estates and convicts sentenced to hard labor by crown courts. Overseeing this large workforce are royal inspectors, known as Zupy, and pit masters, called Steigarzi. These supervisors inspect every worker at the shaft head, marking attendance by cutting small notches into tallow-smeared wooden tally sticks. A specialized team of workers enters the dark galleries before the general workforce goes down. Miners call these brave men fire burners, or Piecuchy. Dangerous methane gas seeps continuously from coal and shale layers embedded inside salt seams. Because methane gas is light, it collects in high, unventilated ceiling pockets, creating a severe danger of explosion. Fire burners are chosen from among the most courageous men in Wieliczka. They wear thick wool coats and felt hoods soaked in buckets of cold water to protect their skin and clothes from burning flames. Crawling on their bellies through dark upper halls, they carry long pine poles tipped with lit tallow torches. Carefully, they raise the flame into high ceiling niches to ignite and burn off pockets of methane before other miners arrive. Low booms of controlled gas explosions echo through empty shafts, while blue flames flash across wet salt ceilings, leaving behind a sharp smell of sulfur and singed wool. Outside the timber shaft house, the main body of miners gathers on the wooden porch for morning prayers. Kneeling on raw pine planks, they recite traditional hymns to Saint Barbara, the patron protector of miners. They pray for preservation from cave-ins, snapping cables, and toxic underground gas. When prayers finish, the men gather their tools and adjust their specialized work clothing. The attire of a 17th century miner is a masterclass in functional survival. Over coarse linen undershirts and thick wool trousers, miners wear a heavy tunic of gray felt called a Kitel. This thick coat repels damp moisture and cushions their bodies against sharp salt walls. Around their waists, they wrap a heavy apron of cured cowhide called a skorzeny farduch. This durable leather apron extends down their thighs and backs. It protects their clothes while carrying rough salt blocks and serves as a smooth sled seat when miners slide down steep wooden salt chutes between mine levels. Miners protect their heads and feet with specialized gear designed for the harsh underground environment. They cover their heads with a tight-fitting felt hood called a captor, which keeps salt dust out of their hair and stops cold brine from dripping down their necks. On their feet, they wear thick leather boots called juchto beauty. These sturdy boots feature wooden soles fitted with iron studs to grip wet, slippery salt floors. To combat the cold dampness of lower drifts, workers stuff their boots tightly with dry rye straw for extra insulation. A heavy leather utility belt holds each worker's personal equipment: an iron pickaxe, metal wedges for splitting salt seams, a leather pouch with tinder and flint for fire, and a personal tallow lamp called a Kaganek. Cast from brass or molded from clay, the lamp burns rendered sheep fat with a twisted hemp wick. When lit, it gives off a warm yellow flame and smoky animal smell, casting long shadows across salt walls as workers enter the shafts. Around mid-morning, 6 hours into their exhausting shift, workers gather in small break niches carved into salt walls to consume their main meal. Laboring in the dense salt air causes extreme thirst and rapid physical fatigue, requiring a diet rich in calories, fat, and hydration. Miners sit together on simple wooden benches or empty barrels, pulling rations from woven baskets and cloth sacks. The staple of their meal is dense dark rye bread, known as klebzitny. Bakers prepare this heavy bread sour so it will not spoil in damp underground air. Workers pair their bread with thick slabs of slonina, which is cured, heavily salted pork fatback that provides concentrated calories for hard physical labor. Miners consume raw garlic cloves and white onions in large quantities, eating them fresh to protect their lungs from inhaling fine salt dust. To wash down their meal, they drink zur, a sour rye soup carried in ceramic flasks, or a light rye beer called Piecuchy. This low-alcohol beer is safer to drink than local surface water and supplies essential vitamins to men working far out of the sun. Salt extracted during these grueling hours forms the foundation of a vast commercial trade network run by the Royal Salt Works Administration, or Zupy Krakowskie. Wieliczka salt is Poland's primary source of financial power, producing up to 1/3 of all revenue in the Royal Crown Treasury. Once salt blocks reach the surface, workers sort them and pack them into heavy oak barrels stamped with the Royal Crown seal. Armed guards escort long wagon trains to the banks of the nearby Vistula River. There, workers load salt barrels onto large wooden river boats called gallery. These river fleets navigate north along the Vistula, carrying Polish salt through busy merchant towns like Sandomierz, Torun, and Grudziądz, eventually reaching the Baltic port city of Gdansk. Dutch, Flemish, and English merchants buy the salt in exchange for Baltic herring, French wines, Swedish iron, and fine wool cloth. From Gdansk, salt barrels ship across Central Europe and Scandinavia to preserve meat and fish for armies, towns, and monasteries. High up on the working rock faces, afternoon hours require maximum physical effort from every trade. Diggers work in synchronized teams of 4. Using heavy iron wedges and wooden mallets, they hammer deep grooves into rock salt walls to separate large rectangular blocks. With precise, powerful strikes of their heavy pickaxes, they crack the block away from the rock face, carving it into a giant salt cylinder called a Bałwan. These giant salt pillars can weigh up to 2,000 kilograms each and require immense strength to move. Once freed from the rock, haulers use iron levers and wooden rollers to guide the heavy cylinders along timber tracks toward central haulage shafts. On steep inclines, specialized teams operate massive wooden treadwheels called giarity, powered by teams of draft horses living underground. These giant wheels wind thick hemp ropes to haul heavy salt cylinders up wooden ramps to main extraction levels. Draft horses represent one of the most remarkable and tragic aspects of 17th century subterranean life. Lowered down shafts in canvas slings as young colts, these working animals never see daylight again. They spend their entire lives inside dry salt-carved stables, their coats dusted with white salt powder as they pull heavy sledges through dark tunnels until old age or blindness takes them. Young stable boys care for them gently, feeding them dry oats hauled down from the surface, and washing their eyes with clean water to clear away salt dust. In neighboring chambers, underground blacksmiths work at glowing coal braziers built on stone hearths. Fresh air flows down ventilation shafts to keep the coal fires burning brightly. Blacksmiths forge and repair worn iron pickaxes, sharpen wooden wedges, and shoe workhorses, their hammer blows ringing out like rhythmic music against iron anvils in the dark. Twilight signals the end of the grueling shift as 5 o'clock in the afternoon approaches. Miners gather at the base of haulage shafts, attaching leather harnesses to lift ropes or climbing long pine ladders towards surface light. Emerging from dark shafts into cool autumn air, workers step into the shaft house, blinking against the sudden brightness. They walk straight to the mine bathhouse, where large wooden tubs of warm water let them scrub away thick crusts of salt dust, grease, and sweat from skin and clothing. Freed from subterranean duties, miners scatter into town to join their families. Many head to local timber taverns known as Krakowskie, where the appetizing smell of roasted goose, braised sauerkraut, and fried onions fills the warm room. Sitting at long wooden tables, they drink honey mead or strong rye vodka, play dice games, and sing traditional mining songs. By 9 o'clock, when church bells sound the evening curfew, workers return home to sleep beside warm clay stoves, resting exhausted bodies before the bell calls them to work again before dawn. Silence returns to the vast hollow world below as night falls over Wieliczka in October 1650. 300 feet beneath the sleeping town, tallow candles in St. Anthony's Chapel burn out, leaving salt-carved statues standing in total darkness. Underground horses sleep quietly in their salt stalls, breathing soft mineral air after long hours of pulling heavy sledges. Above them, miles of petrified pine logs groan under the heavy weight of earth, holding back millions of tons of solid rock and brine. This underground realm feels permanent, an eternal fortress carved by human effort into the foundation of Poland. Yet the golden age of this salt empire is coming to a sudden close. In 1655, just 5 years later, Swedish armies led by King Charles X Gustav will invade Poland in a devastating war known as the Swedish Deluge. Invading troops will capture Krakow, seize the royal salt mine of Wieliczka, plunder salt warehouses to pay foreign soldiers, and destroy royal revenues. Centuries after the miners of 1650 passed away, the underground world of Wieliczka still survives. Today, concrete archaeological evidence confirms the rich reality of 17th century mining life. Deep inside quiet mine chambers, modern visitors and archaeologists can see petrified remains of pine treadwheels from the 1650s, worn iron pickaxes, leather shoes still stuffed with 300-year-old rye straw, and clay tallow lamps covered in thick salt crystals. Royal inventory audits preserved in Krakow archives detail the exact names, wages, and weekly salt output of every digger, hauler, and fire burner who worked here in 1650. These historic artifacts and records prove the remarkable strength of the human spirit. Long after the workers of 1650 returned to dust, their hard work left a permanent mark upon the earth, carving a breathtaking cathedral of salt from total darkness, stone by stone, a timeless monument to human labor, faith, and survival beneath the bedrock of history.